All right, guys, let's talk quivers. Now, I haven't used a lot of quivers on the market, but I have used a slide on Selway since the second I picked up a stick bow. The eye catching attention to detail is kind of what got me headed in that direction. Then, after I had a phone conversation or two with Drew, I knew I wanted to support everything they had going on. The slide on is my flavor, but they make a bolt on, strap on, and even a quick detach. If you want a fancy logo or insignia put on there, just give them a call. They've always been over backwards to get me anything I needed or wanted, and I know they'll be no different with anyone that gives them a shout. Quality people, quality products, and made in America by Americans. What more could you ask for? All right, guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Stickbow Chronicles, brought to you by Black Widow Bows. It is your co-host Blake, and I'm rolling solo again this week. Rob's in Montana right now, or I believe it's Montana. He's at the Western Rendezvous shoot, and he's out of pocket, so just going to be me this week. I sat down and recorded a podcast with a good friend of mine, Trevon Stoltzfus. Trevon's got a TV show. He's filmed for Eastman's. He's wrote for Eastman's. Right now, he's got some stuff going on at the CBA, kind of revamping what the Colorado Bowhunters Association's got going on over there, revamping the magazine, doing some really cool stuff. But Trevon is a wizard with a camera. He's a very, very good storyteller, and I wanted to do a podcast kind of dedicated to photography, videography, just kind of talking about how to capture the moment, for lack of a better word. As a matter of fact, that's probably going to be the title of this podcast. So even if it's just, average Joe bow hunter, I think a lot of people don't spend as much time on getting good photos as maybe they should. And, might look back and regret that one of these days, not having good enough pictures to go back and remember things. So anyways, that's what this podcast was dedicated to. Want to thank Trevon for taking the time to come on. Trevon's done some stick bow hunting in the past. We touch on that a little bit, and just a really, really good dude. And yeah, so as far as that goes, that's what this episode is about. We've got the I Hunt Close Trad Kill 2021 thing rolling right now. Get your entries sent in to ihuntcloseofficial@gmail.com to get entered. Big thanks to all the companies that are supporting that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. Enjoy the episode. Want to thank the sponsors real quick before we hop off here. Got Selway Archery, Kifaru International, The Footage Shaft, Backwoods Grind Coffee Company, and of course, Black Widow Bows. Let's get out of here. All right, guys, this week I've got on good buddy Trevon Stoltzfus. Did I say it right?
You say it so much better than Aaron Schneider. He cannot I have known Aaron for 15 years, and he cannot for the life of him say Stoltzfus. You just got to say it fast.
He butchers it pretty good.
Every time.
No, Trevon is an acquaintance of mine, one of many acquaintances that I've made over the last 3 or 4 years, and I try and keep up with him and talk to him off and on. And Trevon, you've got a TV show, and you've done a lot of filming, photography, writing. You're kind of a jack of all trades, and that's kind of why I wanted to get you on here. Is I wanted to do a photography, videography type podcast, just to kind of cover the basis, and if nothing else, help people maybe take a little better photos.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that it's not that important until you need it, right? Or until you don't have it, and you're looking back through stuff, thinking about stuff, and you're like, man, I wish I'd have taken more photos. And I guess I'll start from the beginning. My introduction into the industry was with Eastman's Hunting Journal. And back in the early 2000s, I worked for them. I was a research editor, and then I also worked with some advertising. And at that juncture, that's when I had kind of started getting into filming. I actually was filming before I started working for Eastman's, but so I filmed Guy and Ike and Cam a little bit, Cameron Haynes, and some stuff like that. So that was kind of my introduction to it, to the industry in general. And I was always a good writer. I always tell people, ask me all the time how to get in the industry. I'm sure you also probably get some of that a little bit. Hey, how do I get into the hunting industry? Thinking that you're going to hunt all the time, which is not true. But what happened was, or what I tell people is, what happened with me is I had a good 6th grade teacher who taught me how to write and how to fall in love with telling a story. And so I tell people that all the time, man, pay attention in English class, learn to write. And that's a good way you can get introduced. So after I left Eastman's, I ended up working with a couple different national magazines, and querying different hunts I was doing and writing articles, so I kind of stayed connected, but then I kept filming and really fell in love with more of the artistic, because the DSLR had just come out at that time. And that kind of idea of a cheap cinema camera where you're getting depth of focus, where you're creating an emotion versus just the old school, set up a camera, kill the critter, and off you go. But to tell the whole story in a way that's cinematic enough to where you can bring people in and they can feel. I say it like this: they kind of get a sense of your adrenaline and the excitement of the hunt, but they're not wet, they're not cold, and they're not tired. That was what I shot for. So
Well, and
that's
you've definitely got a gift for storytelling, even if it's just sitting around and BSing. You've got a gift for it. But I mean, it wasn't until, I don't know, the last probably 6 or 7 years that I really, I think probably saw my first cinematic, like whether it was a TV show or whatever it was. I don't remember at the time, but back when I was a kid, it was all basically kill reels,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
which is fine, but it doesn't, you're not getting the, like you said, the emotion out of it. And especially the things that you do, with Outback, your show's Outback Outdoors, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
With Outback is it's so easily digestible and it keeps you engaged the whole time. And it's not just about the moment of truth. It leads up to that and it builds up to it and it keeps you engaged the whole time. And it gives you a sense of like, man, I felt like I was there.
Right. And that's what we're shooting, or that's what we're shooting for. I've always been a guy that I don't believe in these super dramatic recreates. We run multiple cameras, multiple cameramen, which of course now you're compounding the amount of human scent and noise and stuff, especially since we do a lot of spot and stock. It's more difficult, but I figured if you have a good cameraman, then you should be getting a lot of that stuff as it's happening. It's funny because you have two ends of the spectrum, and I had an intern one time, and he kind of looked at me and he said, "I just want to see things get shot." I mean, and he was totally honest. He says, "I just want to, the old Primos. Remember, we all cut our teeth watching Primos. I had a VCR, and I still have those Primos tapes on VCR, the Elk Truth Elk, one and all that stuff. And it was whack 'em and stack 'em type. And I still think there's validity there. I think we've gotten to the spectrum now of getting too artsy fartsy, and now everything's about, not that I'm not against, or I'm against conservation. I'm a conservationist myself, but it's swung to this thing that if you're hunting because you just like to hunt, oh man, that's not the right motive. And we get this, and in my opinion, it's baloney, because I started hunting for the thrill of the chase. I started capturing my my adventures to share them. And I went what I would call artsy fartsy because I felt like I could capture more of the emotion. But the emotion, my whole goal is not to expand or protect public lands, although I promote that. It's not to put meat in my freezer, although 90%, probably over 90% of the protein that my family ingests is wild game. That's not the foundation of why I started hunting. And it's not conservation because I didn't understand that. I was too young. I started hunting for the thrill of the chase. Now, as I get older, I step back and I realize these things are vital. They're extremely important that we support all these things so that the next generation, that comes up behind us has the same opportunities we do or we have in the past, or better even. But that's why I donate my time to the Colorado Bowhunters Association as a co-editor of the magazine, because they're fighting for our bow hunting rights in Colorado. And if just a shameless plug here, if you like Colorado, please become a CBA member. So a good example of something that we just had a battle for was they're trying to take away decoy mounted or bow mounted decoys, excuse me. And for me, that's a fight I want to fight because I don't even use a decoy on my bow because I have a hard enough time hitting the target. And if there's a wind, then now I have a sail and I really can't hit the target. But I use decoys. So if you let them take that, it's a slippery slope. And then what's next is regular decoys. And then what's next after that, who knows? So that's something I as I step back and I look and I say, what's important? If you were to come to me and say, why do you hunt? It's still going to be for the thrill of the chase, man.
Well, and you're really speaking to me right now. I feel like you're taking words out of my mouth. It's we've talked a lot about, equipment and technology on this podcast, and that's a hot topic, especially in the traditional community. And, I didn't expect this podcast to go down this rabbit hole, but why not? Let's just do it while we're here.
Yeah.
Um, it is a slippery slope. You start, and, a minute ago you said that you think the film industry or the content industry has kind of swung totally in the opposite direction and kind of almost gotten faked or too artsy fartsy and too hashtag conservation and too hashtag public lands. And one thing that I've said on this podcast before is that you've got to be very careful, like the trophy hunting stigma. You've got to be very careful when you start backing yourself into corners. The I only hunt for meat corner, the I'm against trophy hunting corner, I don't hunt for horns corner, the when you start backing yourself into corners like that and you start portraying something that may not be totally accurate, but it may look better to the general public for the most part, but it may not be an accurate representation of the way you actually feel. I think that is an extremely slippery slope, because now you're creating a stigma that you're creating even more of a stigma that there's something wrong with shooting a big animal, or more of a stigma for hunting for, like you said, if you like to hunt just for the thrill of the chase, you're creating a false stigma that there's something wrong with that
Yeah.
when you paint pictures a certain way. So I think there's a really fine line there, and I'm curious kind of what you think to kind of walk that middle ground.
I think one thing I've learned from being in this industry a long time is you have to be true to who you are, and not everybody's going to like you, and you got to be okay with that. And that was really hard for me for a long time. I still constantly get emails about what a worthless, POS I am. And these are people that don't even know me. I mean, they don't know my heart. But that's just what it is. When you put yourself in a position where you're in the public eye, whether it be writing an article or giving a seminar or whatever, then you open yourself up for scrutiny. And that's good. I mean, otherwise you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there telling, and we do with the internet and computer keyboard wizards and all that stuff, these armchair quarterbacks sitting, in their underwear and on a folding chair in their mom's basement. I mean, it happens. But here's the bottom line is and I had to find this out because I kind of got a little lost when I started this. What do you do this for? Why do you hunt? And then why are you taking a picture? Why are and for me, it's all about the adventure. You said it earlier, Blake. I'm the guy that's sitting around the campfire. I want to hear your story, but I also got a story I want to tell. And I think that's real. It's the reason we have a podcast called the Inspired Wild Podcast. And the whole thing is to inspire people to find their wild. And we do it every night when we come back from hunting, maybe not every night, but a couple of times a hunt, where the situations that happen that day during the hunt are fresh and new. And we sit around the campfire. I have this system that I can take. It's all battery operated, and I can do a podcast. And sometimes you'll hear a fire crackling in the background because we're sitting around the campfire talking about the day and talking about the hunt. And man, that's what I crave. I'm not one of them guys that can go out for 10, 12 days backpacking alone. I will literally go bonkers. I need personal interaction. I think that's why I love hunting with a camera guy or a couple of camera guys, because they're my friends. Most of these guys are like-minded, just like, you hear people talking about how hard it is to find a hunting partner. Frank and Aaron on the Kifaru cast talk about it all the time. That's one of the most difficult things to do, is find a good hunting partner. Well, likewise, I use that same idea for a good cameraman. Of course, they have to be able to do their job, of course, but I got to be able to spend time with them. They got to be able to spend time with me, and then it comes across natural, and it comes across when you're listening to it, or hopefully when you're watching, the episodes or the films or whatever, that you're there. And you can say, aha, yes, I can relate to that because I got a buddy, Tom, who's just like that, or whatever. And it's real. Instagram, social media, all these things are great and they're horrible at the same time. Because if I'm creating my value on how many likes I get, that's just, that's the wrong thing, And real relationships are not formed online. They're formed in the backcountry and, face to face. And now you and I met. It's kind of funny because you and I met. I was helping Phil Mendoza with the alpha bow hunting, and we met in South Dakota, right?
Utah.
Isn't that the first? Utah. So, okay, I knew it was one of them. They all run together.
Yeah,
Utah.
we met there and then hooked back up.
Right. And you guys just kind of were shooting the tack and walked by. And I think I probably, the kind of like the carnival barker, for the bearded lady, I kind of guy, hey, come over here, you guys, and you guys came over here and freaking ate the course alive. And I'm like, oh, holy moly, these guys can shoot. And then, we hooked back up when you guys came to the Nationals. And we've been friends ever since. And then we've had a chance to shoot in the best of the best. And I rode basically on your back. I had a horrible day. That was probably the worst. As you know, I've been fighting target panic, which is not an issue we need to get into, but it's something I feel I'm really making good strides in. And I was struggling on that day. And you carried me, but we had a great time because we had a relationship, and that was born out of it wasn't in the backcountry, but it was kind of like that. It was in a physical setting where you're kind of pushing yourself to the limit, and it was fun. So anyway, I don't know if I'm just rambling or whatever, but for me, somebody who wants to get in the industry just needs to know where they want to be. I'm at a point where I could not have a TV show and start to step back from this. And I think I'd be okay with that. I would always write. I'm always going to write. I'm always going to photograph. I'm always going to video. Now, to an extent that I would get enough video to produce a film or a television show, I don't know if I will continue to do that, till I can't. But until my passion dies, I'm going to keep doing it because I love it. And just think about what I have to show my grandkids.
hours upon hours upon
Yes.
hours of video. And that's really why I don't want to film to, and I think I speak for a large demographic of people. I don't want to film to be famous. I don't want to film because I want to have a TV show. I just want to film because whenever I was a kid, I remember watching old videos of my dad that he
Hmm.
he bought a camcorder back in the late 80s, early 90s, and remember him showing me videos of around deer camp with him and his buddies. And
Right.
I mean, I just ate it up. I mean, that's one of the things that just got me so inspired to hunt was watching old videos. And I want to have that to pop in and whatever we're using 25 years from now and be able to show, my kids and their kids. And I mean, that's why and I'm a very amateur videographer, a very amateur photographer, but I enjoy it whenever I've got the time to sink into it. And, you know, having those things and you talk about storytelling, something as simple as a series of good photographs from a good photographer tells the whole damn story.
Oh
From
yeah.
from somebody who knows how to take photos, you can tell the whole story of a hunt without one single word.
Yeah.
And
And there's an art to that. Um, it's notice it's and it grows. It's just like anything else. It's just like your shot process. Your shot process the first time you picked up a bow is radically different to your shot process now, right? I know mine is. And whether I'm shooting a trad bow or you know, my compound, it doesn't matter. My shot process has grown the same. Like things I do now are so different. Well, it's the same thing with cameras. And so I'm making this big circle, but to come back to a guy like you who just wants to document his hunt to be able to share it with his buddies or his kids or his grandkids, whatever. You know, as you go into this, you have to say, how involved do I want to be? And there's no wrong answer. I want people who are listening to this to realize you can do this on a budget. What you have to do is have your expectations, just like on a hunt. What are my expectations? We talked about these guys that are trophy hunters. Okay, well, their expectations are going to go into a hunt. They might not shoot a deer or an elk or whatever it is because they've set their expectations. Now, who am I to step in and dictate what their expectations are? I have no place there. Same thing with what you're doing when you're capturing your hunt. You're basically, Aaron Snyder says it well. He says you're capturing a moment in time. And that's exactly what you want to do. So if you have a good cell phone, people in the camera industry are going to want to kick me square in the balls. But I'm just going to tell you, I'm
I'm
taking you
glad you're making this point.
from the beginning to the end. Okay. So let's start with the cell phone. What you need to do is look in your settings and set your camera for as high res raw photos as you can. Okay. Why? Because if you set it lower, you just get a lower quality and there's less you can do with it. Not that you want to get into Photoshop and manipulate, but you have the opportunity. With technology and the way we do digital media nowadays, the higher the quality, the better. Now, bandwidth with the internet is a lot better, so we can send bigger files. So why not do it? I can't tell you how many times, Blake, I have gotten phenomenal photos and they're small, tiny little uh, phone photos, but they would have been awesome if they would have just set the settings right. And I could have used them on the cover of the magazine. But instead, I have to get creative. How do I put this inside the article and use them? And I can only use them in a small portion. So that's why I say that. The other thing you need to think about is what do you want to take pictures of? And this might seem really simple and rudimentary to some people. But for me, I'm looking at camp life, what I would call lifestyle. So around camp, depending upon the hunt, what you're seeing from your tree stand.
Filling your truck up.
Bill, no, if I see another somebody, a son of a gun, excuse me, filling up their truck, and that's part of the storyline. That just tells me they don't have enough footage to fill time. No, anyway, that's totally different. I'm being sarcastic there.
I had to make that point because on my way to New Mexico last year, I took a photo filling my truck up and sent it to only Trevon.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, dude, we all know how to fill our trucks up. You don't need that's not a storyline piece of the storyline. But there's scenery shots. Wide angle, think wide angle, so big country. Now, you're sitting in a tree stand, you don't have wide angle, but you might have, here's my windows, my shot opportunities. Just snap it. And then creative stuff, I call what I would call B-roll is other wildlife stuff like that. And today's day and age, if you're out west and you have a spotting scope, you have such a great opportunity with some of these adapters that you can put your phone on your spotting scope or your binoculars. Use that. That way you're getting some wildlife footage of the buck on 1,000 yards away on the other ridge, and maybe you're going to make a stalk on him. Get photos. Just do that. If you'll keep doing this, it's kind of like you're putting money in the bank. Now, when it comes down to the killing of the animal, it's going to be hard when you're hunting by yourself to take photos. I understand that, but once the stalk is over, it's not a bad thing to be able to go, okay, maybe you're waiting for the blood, 30 minutes or, whatever it is to go check the blood trail, or maybe it's 4 hours. I don't know. Take a few photos, go back, talk, go through maybe where you stalked. I'm just trying to say, these are the assets that you would need to tell that story. And you said it good, or well, I guess. Probably better English. I'm a writer. You said it well when you said, hey, tell a story with pictures. And you just have to be able to be mindful of what that is. So, when you're in the backcountry and you're filling up your water bottle in a seep, take a picture. I mean, why not? It's simple. Digital media, if you don't like it, get rid of it. So then you get into your animal. Now, this is where it gets tricky. It's helpful if you have somebody that's with you, because then they can take those photos. I'm going to throw a couple of things at the people right now. Is please don't straddle your animal like a Harley Davidson, okay? And tuck the tongue back in. Here's a little trick I learned a long time ago. If it's just you got this tongue and it's always out, cut the son of a gun off.
Wipe a little blood off.
Wipe some blood off. Yeah, I mean, it does. Think about it. The more, I'm not saying you got to get artsy fartsy with it, and I can even give you some hints that will make you or help you set it up for a better photo. But take the time, set it up. What I like to do is even if I might even do the old, hey, I'm going to shoot something at night. I'm going to take pictures next morning. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Is I'm going to roll him over and I'm going to take some night photos. I want a shot of that animal right where he laid.
Well, there's a misconception of that you can't take a good photo at night. And I've taken some of the best photos that I've taken have been at night with a headlamp and a long exposure. Yes. Some of the most phenomenal photos I've got are at night.
But you're not going to do it with an iPhone. Okay?
No, that's a little more advanced.
Understand what you got. And if you have to, so there's things that I've done once I've taken that initial photo and kind of that ecstatic, I like the animal as it lays, however that is, I take a photo. Then I'm tucking the legs under, I'm getting it propped up, maybe the old typical grip and grin. It's dark, your buddy's holding a headlamp, you're taking a photo. Okay, great. But if you want good photos, you still got to gut that sucker.
Just get the guts out of it. I've seen that on social media.
Yeah. Okay. And then people go, well, you can't, your meat's going to spoil. No, it's not. If it's, getting down to 30 degrees, you get the guts out, you prop them open at night. I'll even prop them open. And if I'm not backpacked in, of course, I'll shove a whole bag of ice in the cavity, and then I'll turn them over with their legs underneath them, so that when the rigor mortis sets up, they're in a position that's going to look good. You'll probably get some hate mail on this because I'm sure I've tied
their head up to.
Yes, exactly. That's
well. I mean, this is I don't know why in the world we get hate mail about this, but we probably will. But you can, if you're going to take pictures the next morning, shove a bag of ice in them, tuck their legs under them, position them how you want them, tie their head up.
Right.
And the next
That'll
morning, it
help.
makes taking pictures so much easier.
Okay. And then to take it even a step further, and just a caveat for those that are going to email us, I've never lost meat on an animal in my life. So if you're going to email us, bite me. No, I'm just kidding. I love you. So, but the next morning you're going to go out there. Little hint, before you leave, a lot of times you have like some cooking oil or olive oil. If you're in a camp setting or whatever, maybe you have it. If you don't, that's okay. Water can work, but it dries out and you have to put a little more. But if you rub a little bit on their eyes, what that it gives it a little more lifelike. It looks more lifelike when you're taking the pictures. Of course, I'm assuming you've taken care of the tongue, you've cleaned the blood up. When you prop them up, and that's why doing it if you have to take pictures the next morning, this helps because rigor will actually put them in the position you want to be. But with a deer, it's pretty simple. Antelope, same way. Don't sit right behind them unless you can get your head in between the antlers and even or below the tip of the antlers. Okay.
100%.
I'm not saying long arm it. I please don't understand. I'm not saying that, but that is a nice photo. I like to sit cross-legged in front and hold the head up. So literally their antlers are exposed to clear sky. If you have busyness in the background, their antlers will disappear. Of course, I'm a small guy. I'm a whopping 5'7.5". I'd like to say 5'8". And 140 pounds.
Yeah, if you're 6'8", you've got to get a little bit more creative, or they'll all look small.
Right. But I can make, where a 6'8" guy makes a 160 buck look 140, I make a 140 buck look 160. I'm sorry, that's how God made me. But I'm not trying to make him abnormally big. I just want a clean, clear photo, what I call a grip and grin. There was a whole big thing going around the web a while back about why grip and grins aren't good. I'm not even going to go into that. I'm not even going to approach that subject because that's hogwash. But the other way you can sit is or sit behind the animal and you're holding with your right hand the head or the antler. And but again, you got clear sky behind you. Whatever. You just don't want a lot of busyness behind the antlers because they will disappear. God gave them good camo for a reason. So if you can get a clear background behind them, do that. Then of course, so that's our grip and grins. A lot of people, that's kind of when sponsors and stuff or partners that you might work with that you're creating content for, they like that type of stuff. It's that, hey, look, I did this. Now, I'm not going to lie. There used to be, I'd take 3 hats in my backpack and I'd switch them for individual sponsors. I don't do that anymore. It's just probably out of laziness, but I don't have to take as many pictures. If I can get 3 or 4 different pictures, and please take them landscape and, which is the horizontal and vertical, because you never know when you'll need that type of thing. So you're always thinking about the assets you have and where you might use them. In an article, everybody tends to take just landscape photos. Well, there's a time when a vertical photo would be really fit nicely. So you give a couple of options there.
I'm bad about that. I don't take enough vertical photos.
Yeah, I got a cameraman that's a phenomenal cameraman. And that dude, and there's something about it, but he takes about 80% vertical. And so I get on him about, dude, take some landscape shots. But it's just because he's worked so much in social media. And like if you're doing an Instagram story or something like that, that vertical is fits the bill so nicely. So that kind of goes into that. If I'm getting long-winded, just stop me. But these are simple steps. Now, you can take this with an iPhone. Again, as you step up into like a point and click, and there's a lot of them out there, $300-$400. There's some really good ones, and I can't off the top of my head rattle any off.
The Sony RX100 is a really good.
Is it? Okay. I know Sony's.
I believe that's the model, but it's an RX100.
Sony's come out, yeah, and it'll do video
settings, 4K video. It'll fit in your pocket.
Right. So that's amazing. Now, you step up from there and you start getting into like a DSLR that has different lenses. As you do this, understand you're also increasing weight in your backpack if you're backpacking. So that's something to think about. But then you start getting into, and that's when you got to understand cameras. And I'm not going to go into that because we don't have the time. But you have
Another podcast, we'll go more into camera settings.
Because I think if you understand camera settings, I can pick up any camera on the market right now, and it'll probably take me longer to figure out where the buttons are because it's just a different frame. But I can run video or photo. I can run any camera because I learned that. So then, and that's when you start getting, you're going through the same principles of what we talked about before, but you're taking the same shots. You're just doing it probably with a little bit better camera, maybe switching a few lenses, giving some different perspective, that wide angle, that fisheye, that up close. You get like a 70 to 200, and now you can drop the f-stop and it gives you a low focal point. And now you get that really cool where, the antlers, the guy's admiring the antlers and his face is almost out of focus. So let's get some artsy fartsy stuff there. You can do that with some of the other cameras, but it's harder to do that with an iPhone. Although I have seen some of the face recognition stuff like that you can get some of that stuff.
Well, I'm not a camera guru at all, but I know the camera that I've got really well as far as how to get around in it and where the settings, and I kind of, with the lenses I've got, I know kind of how to set my settings in certain situations to get kind of a look that I want. And it's not an expensive camera. It's it's kind of I guess it'd be probably a mid-road camera. It's a Sony A6500 crop sensor with like a $350 lens, and I think I've got a 16 millimeter 1.4 and an 18 to 105 f4.
Right.
And every photo I've taken has been with that camera, and it's like a $900 body probably.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of it, what's your budget? I don't want people to think, well, I got to spend $2,500 in order to start documenting. And that's why I started off with iPhones or some type of good cell phone that has a good camera. Let me just share this honest thing that I have come to realize. When I was filming for Eastman's, the camera that I ran that was on my shoulder, of course, we were still running standard def at the time. The phone that's in my the camera that's in my iPhone takes better video than that freaking, at the time, I think it was like $2,500 or $4,000 for that camera.
Oh, this one takes the phone I've got takes 8K video.
That's crazy. It's crazy. I have we're doing a lot of stuff in 4K now, and my storage
pain in the butt.
Oh man, crazy. And what do you do?
4K video is a pain in the butt, man.
So I take all this 4K video. It's a hassle, a lot of render time. Your editing time increases. You're having to make proxies, all this different stuff to edit it. And then what do? The first thing you do, you export it at 1080p.
Well, that's what I was going to say this. When people are looking at video cameras, just forewarning you, because I've gone through this whole thing, is if you're going to buy a camera that shoots in 4K, you're going to have to, in order to process that and color grade it and chop it up and do all those things, you're going to have to spend some dollars on a computer that will handle it.
Right.
You've just got some old computer or PC that it's not going to handle it. It's not going to do it.
Back in the day, I had a custom built PC for editing, but I was dealing in standard def. I only use Macs now. And even with my pretty souped up Mac that I edit on, it's a lot better than my older computer, but I'm dealing with so much more. So, and I'm not trying to, I mean, you might not want to do anything but stitch a few little video clips together. And it's awesome. It'll play nice. When you get into manual settings, the number one mistake is exposure and focus. Those are the two things you have to understand. And that just takes playing with your camera. So I always say, if this is something you want to do, you probably need a hunting partner that at least has a little bit of interest in this too, because you're going to have to kind of work together. But the cool thing is, then you have that for the rest of your life. You have that memory So it's
And
pretty cool.
take a bunch. And I'm very amateur at all this. I'm just speaking of mistakes that I've made. Take a bunch of photos, because some of the some of the best composed photos that I've taken, I'll take it in the viewfinder, and in the viewfinder, it's like, nailed it. Get it home, blow it up on the computer screen, slightly out of focus.
Right.
So mess with that stuff and take a bunch of them. That way
Right.
you can probably, out of 20 photos, you'll more than likely going to have one good one, because I've taken some great photos that look great through the viewfinder, and then you get home, blow them up, and it's a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah. So after you've done your grips and grins, switching back to kind of some of the ideas of what to take, you're going to pack that animal out, or you're going to drag that buck to the truck, if you're tree stand hunting, deer hunting, whitetail hunting, but you can still take some of those photos. That's always good. And then, the admiration. I like to take a lot of pictures around the animal. I'm not, whether or not I pray over an animal doesn't matter. In my opinion, that's my own personal deal. And I think that, I'm personally very conservative. I'm a Christian. I believe that we have got to that point on that artsy fartsy side that it's, if you're not praying over your animal, then you don't deserve it, and I don't agree with that. You can be thankful, that's for sure. But the fact of the matter is you're excited and you're pleased. You should be pleased, or you shouldn't have released the arrow. And whether it's your first fork horn or a monster, it doesn't matter. It's a trophy.
Well, and what's wrong with praying over your animal and not taking a photo of it?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
like it's
And
something
if you
there.
do, pray over it and someone takes a photo, that's fine. I'm not knocking that, but I'm just like, I'm thinking of these things that I see, and
Seems forced.
it seems forced. And God bless those people that are that emotionally they're connected with that and they're thankful for that animal. I think that's great, but I don't know that that's something that it has to be in your bucket list of shots you got to take. But I do want you to, I encourage people to, get up close there get a picture of just the head, get a picture of, heck, you might not show up, but get a picture of the entry, the exit, whatever. Those are kind of gross and whatever. But I think, yeah, if you have it, you can talk about, look at what this broadhead did. Well, now you have that photo you can show somebody. And then packing out, that's always good. And again, I think I already mentioned camp life, and it's not a bad thing to take photos of how you process the meat, and just that, again, telling that whole story.
Right.
So
No, man, I think this has been phenomenal. Again, I'm very, amateur whenever it comes to photos and video and stuff like that. But it's something that whenever I do it and I have time to mess with it, it's something I genuinely enjoy. And, if the main thing I kind of wanted to get out of this is to encourage people to take more photos, take more videos. Hell, I mean, it's what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? I didn't even take, my Colorado hunt last year. We basically just used cell phones the whole time, and I got some phenomenal pictures on my cell phone.
right.
And it just because you don't have a high-dollar camera doesn't mean you can't take a bunch of good pictures. And with what you've going on at the CBA, I know you've kind of been wanting to get this out. Some people have the best story to tell you, but if they don't have the pictures to back it up, there's not a whole lot you can do with it from a content perspective.
Right. I'll give you an example. I'm looking at a bear article right now that when I first got it, the story's really good. I mean, this freaking black bear is 500 plus pounds. He's huge. I mean, he's a monster, and the photos are horrible. Well, I thought that's what was all of them. Luckily, he emailed me some more, which saved the whole thing because he did have better photos. Now, if I was there, I would have done it completely different. But because he had some more that he hadn't sent, and we're still going to be able to run the article, and we're still going to make it work. But that bear, I mean, he could have done so much more. And it's just, let's be honest, it's not something everybody understands or knows how to do or thinks about doing. I mean, if it's 70 degrees outside, a lot of times you're going, hey, let's get this sucker torn down. If you're antelope hunting and you're on the prairie and it's 70 degrees and it's going to get hotter as the day goes on, what's the first thing we need to do? Let's get this animal taken care of. And I agree with that, because otherwise you'll get spoilage. But it doesn't take long to do it if you just, grit your teeth and make it a priority. I kind of turn into a little bit of a bossy guy, because I'm ordering people around, because if it's an animal that I know I need to get broken down, I need pictures, but we need to break this animal down. And so I'm telling people, go here, go here, go here, so we can get it done. But all too often, if you say this, oh, we'll do it. Let's just get it in the truck and we'll go over here and do it. A lot of times it doesn't happen. Well,
I've had people get aggravated at me that I hunt with, and whether it's my dad or whoever, shoots a deer out at the farm, I'm like, okay, wait on me. Just
right.
Give me an hour to get there. Well, I'm kind of hurry. I need to get back to town. Just trust me. It'll be worth your time.
Right.
Wait on me. Let's get some photos. Just wait on me. It will be worth it. And usually, people will get, a little impatient, but once they see the end result of it, they're glad that they did it. And it's hard, because I'm guilty of it too. Whenever I get in hunt mode, it's hard to get me out of it. And, it's nice I appreciate the times that I make myself slow down long enough to get, even if it's just for myself, is
And
get a photo or get a video or something.
if somebody, especially if your hunting partner wants to hunt that evening, and you want him to hunt, you don't want to take his hunting time. That's hard. But you can't. I say it this. I say it like this. You can't go back and do it again once that animal's broken down. And the way I pay my respect is I take the most amazing photo I can with that animal, and that's how I honor. I do. To me, it's almost like I owe it to that animal. This is the last time this animal will be whole, because I'm going to break it down and cut it up and put it in the freezer. And so I want that. And then there's the memory aspect of it. You those memories are always going to be there, but now you have the photography or the video to back it up. And with video, I mean, again, you can even take little clips of here and there and just kind of tell the story. And the next thing you know, you have something you can kind of stitch together simply. And guess what? You got a cool little, 5-minute video or whatever. So, but yeah, that's my 2 cents. Don't overthink it. Let me warn you right away. As you go and you see some of the results, it's just like anything else. You used to be okay with shooting, a secondhand bow. Now you're shooting a better bow, and now your arrows, you're going to get into it and it's going to get more extensive. But if you walk before you run, nobody needs to go spend $3,500 and to begin with. Learn, and there's so much at your fingertips with the internet now, on YouTube and stuff, on how to run cameras.
That's how I learned.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's you just got to get out there and try it.
Yeah, for sure. I am getting can you hear that?
Yeah. No, you're good. I know you got to get rolling.
No. It's just that I can't figure out how to turn the little thing off. I mean, I'm a computer techie guy. This is what a doofus I am, and I can't figure out. Somehow my phone is linked with my Mac, and my other one doesn't do it, but this one dings every time it comes. I'm sure it's a setting. I just need to probably Google it. But yeah, well, for me, I appreciate coming on with you, because I really like where we're at in the bow hunting community, as far as I see a the chasm between traditional bow hunters and compound bow hunters is getting smaller. And I have some friends that just will never shoot a compound again. And then people like me, I've got both. And, but I think my daughter is lighting me up. Sorry, guys.
No, you're
I
good.
think I'm really excited at where we're at in the fact that I think that chasm is getting smaller because we just have to support each other in any way we can, because with what's going to happen is, and I'm seeing this more and more legislatively, that these anti-hunters are coming after us. And I'm not saying they're trying to divide us, but they're trying to divide us. And what that does is it allows them to sneak things in. And when I talk about sneaking things in, I'm using examples of like that bow-mounted decoy. It might not seem like much, but it's the foundation that they build upon.
Well, didn't tree stands get brought up too? Banning tree
Oh,
stands? Isn't that the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard?
It's crazy. It's crazy what they're doing. They're trying everything, and just to, again, if it's trail cameras, if it's anything like that, I think that they want to just get their pinky toe in the door. If they can do that, then they can go, because then they can add on to that.
Well, I'm certainly not one, and I've said it before on this podcast. I'm certainly not one for introducing more technology, but I'm also very leery and skeptical of starting to take technology away that we've already got, if that makes sense, because gosh, we could go way down that rabbit hole. But um, I think it's a really slippery slope to start, well, for lack of a better term, virtue signal on other hunters. That is something that the left is very good at, and if you don't like the left, don't act like them. Don't now. I obviously there's kind of a balance there. When you see somebody doing something they shouldn't be, or you think there's something wrong with something, it's not a bad thing to call them out. But there's also something to be said about just coming together. And I think that this podcast, even though we get hate mail for it, I think this podcast does a really good job of bridging that gap from, compound and just bow hunters in general.
Well,
And
if you look at it this way, we're basically dictating each other's morals and ethics. And if you came to me and said, "Hey, Trevon, you need to quit eating Mexican food. Okay, you need to only eat hamburgers." Well, I really like Mexican food. Who are you to tell me I shouldn't eat Mexican food? That's my own personal preference. Now, I'm oversimplifying it, of course,
well,
but
again, I mean, you see a guy shooting 5 pounds of tannerite under a corn pile with 15 hogs around it and blows them 30 feet in the air and posts it on Instagram. Yeah, that guy probably doesn't need to be doing that. He should probably get called out for that. Somebody, kissing a dead duck or doing some goofy stuff
yeah,
stuff like that. I think we can all agree is pretty goofy stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, the finger pointing and the virtue signaling thing there's something to be said about unification, and if we keep dividing ourselves and keep letting people get their toe in the door, like you said earlier, that's a problem. It's a
right.
big one.
I guess we have to ask ourselves, do we want to be hunting in 20 years?
That's right.
If we do, we better put our differences aside. And whether I shoot out to 80 yards with a compound bow and keep it in the tinnering, and you can't do that, so therefore I shouldn't do it. You know what? Same thing, dude. I don't shoot my traditional my recurve. I do not shoot past 25 yards because it's not pretty. Okay. Now I've seen you shoot. I would never put what limits I've put on myself on you. And so I don't drink. I'm gonna use another analogy. I don't drink because I have had a problem in the past, and I haven't had a drink since May 16th, 10 years ago. Okay. So for those of you who've had the same issue and are sober, good for you. I don't have a problem with anybody else drinking. Why? Because it's not my choice. Now, if you drink and you act like an idiot, I might have a problem with that, right? But because I've put that on me and I've put those limits on me, I'm not going to impose those on you. That's not right. And if you want to go out and you want to drink a 6-pack of beer or a 12-pack of beer or whatever, and you can handle that, that's good. And I'll sit right next to you and have a Coke Zero, right? I'm not going to have an issue with that. But I kind of think in a way that's similar, because that's something I have put on myself, a limit on myself, but I'm not going to superimpose that on somebody else, because it's not my responsibility. It's not my position. It's not my place. And I think if we had that a little, cut some people a little more slack, I think we'd be all right. We still need to hold each other accountable, again, for the bigger things because of how it looks. And that's why I encourage people, hey, clean a little bit of the blood up. Make sure the tongue's not hanging out when you're taking a picture. Don't straddle and ride it like a Harley. That, in my opinion, I think that shows a little to the non-hunting public, a little bit more respect. But again, I'm not going to unfriend you because you do that. I mean, if you ask me my opinion, I'll say I think you could take a better picture, but that's just my opinion. So,
Well, at the end of the day, we all we all enjoy the same things. We might do it a little differently, or we might do it for a little bit different reasons here or there. But I mean, twists and turns aside, I mean, we all enjoy the same stuff. So
right, for sure,
don't get caught up in the minutia.
Yeah.
I guess to sum it up.
Yeah. And the other thing I'm going to bring up, and you've probably brought this up too, is we need to be a community that rejoices in others' success. Instagram, there's something about that. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that type of thing that we allow a little bit of jealousy to creep in. And I'm going to put my hand up and say, hey, I've seen that too. I'm having a hard hunting season and I'm seeing all these pictures come through. It's kind of a kick in the old cojones because I can't get her done. Well, that's hunting. That's why we call it hunting and not killing. So I have a choice right then. Do I rejoice? Do I take part in being happy for that person, whether I know him or not? Or do I go, oh, that's a freaking pendant. He shot that in the high fence, whatever. I think we have to give people the benefit of the doubt. And then when the guy posts the fork horn and it's his first buck, man, we should be as excited about that as we are about that trophy 180 class, freaking whatever, right? Because
100%.
we've gotten away from that and we've divided ourselves into this, okay, every animal's a trophy and I only kill trophy animals. Okay, well, what's a trophy? And I'm not going to be mad at this guy because he passed 14 bucks and killed a bomber, but I'm not going to be mad at this guy because he killed a 2-year-old, right? That's a choice he made. Remember, our place in conservation is taking animals out of the ecosystem in order to balance the population. You and I both know, because we hunt whitetail, I want to shoot 4-year-old and older bucks. That's my thing in the place I hunt in Kansas. Okay. That's my goal. That's a limit I set for myself. But when a kid comes out to my place and a beautiful 2-year-old walks by, I tell him, let the air out of him. Because what I'm doing there, I'm going against and I'm doing air quotes now for those of you who can't see the video of us, air quotes. I'm doing my management plan a disservice, but I'm also hooking this kid for the rest of his life.
That's right.
And that is what gets me excited. I've got goosebumps just thinking about it because my nephews just killed turkeys for the first time with a bow. And I have nothing against shooting a freaking turkey in the face with a shotgun because they're the smartest stupid bird I ever. They're so frustrating, but it's so exciting, right? And if my nephews came out and hunted with me in Kansas and they shot a 2-year-old, I'd be so happy. But that's different. than if I bring somebody out there that's grown and has experience and this and that, and and they know what they're doing. If they make a mistake and shoot a 2-3 year old buck, I might be like, come on, don't do that. You know better than that. But if they do, it's still dead, and I'm going to rejoice in it. And there's more deer out there,
And we're going to eat it.
and we're going to eat it for sure. So I think there's a little grain. We need to add a little salt in with what we're sprinkling around here, and let people be who they are, and rejoice in that. And so I ramble on to just say we need to embrace each other and support each other in our achievements. And even if there's a little hint of a gut ache because you're not killing that type of animal, we still need to be excited for that, that success, because we're a brotherhood, we're a sisterhood, we're a family. And we do act like a family because we fight like dogs and cats, but we need to be nicer.
Well, and this, I mean, it's not as off topic as it sounds, because let's circle this back and tie this back into, taking photos or video or creating content or whatever. Be genuine.
Yeah.
Just be genuine, and if there's anything I'll say, I know folks get mad at me about things I say or whatever. I tell the truth and I say how I feel on this podcast. And if you don't agree with me, that's totally fine. I've had a lot of disagreements with some of my best friends, and gotten arguments with them. And guess what? We're still friends.
Right.
It's if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Or if you don't agree with Trevon, that's fine. Or you don't agree with Rob and think he's a crusty old fart, which he is, that's fine. But just be genuine. Just be
Mhm.
genuine in what you do. Do it for the reasons you enjoy it. And if you're being a dummy, somebody's probably going to call you out on it. And it's okay to be called a dummy sometimes, because I've done some pretty dumb stuff and had people call me out. And I'm like, you know what? They're right. I may not
Right.
want to admit it, but they're right. And
Mhm.
I I I think what with I know that seemed like a tangent, but that circles back in and kind of ties into what we're talking about here. So
Right. Right. I think of I shot my first doe with a recurve, and it was a yearling. And I tell this story because it was on the show, and I shot over him, or her, excuse me. I shot over her, and she ran closer. And I mean, it was just God's plan, right? And so I knocked another arrow, drew, and I just pinwheeled her. Okay. And she goes off. She doesn't go 20, 25 yards. And I got this guy that, you got to be pretty pissed when I don't put my cell number stuff. He had to dig. Somehow he found my cell number, and he called me, and he lit into me, and I listened. I just shut my mouth and I listened to him. And he told me how I was doing the worst thing possible for hunting, that I can't believe you showed that on TV, and right? And then I responded with, well, what have you ever hunted with a recurve? Well, no, that's not the point. Okay. So how do you know the journey that I've been on to try and get to where I could kill an animal with a recurve, over time? And now you're telling me, and then I also took it back to, okay, let's talk about if this is really good for the deer herd. And I said, what's the difference between taking a mature deer, a mature doe, or a fawn if I need to take 15 does off this property this year? Well, he couldn't tell me, you know. Um, I'd never heard, I don't know if you have, trophy doe. I don't know what a trophy doe is. To me, a doe's a doe. And she was delicious. I mean, she was delicious because she was young.
oh, you
So
bet.
anyway, I got an earful on that guy, and then some people you can't talk to, but that's what happens is, you get someone like that. And I think if we could just be a little kinder, that'd probably go a long ways. Yeah, for sure.
Well, man, we've been on for, I don't know, probably an hour and 10 minutes or so here. Why don't you, before we hop off here, I know you got to get going. You got a big CBA banquet. Why don't you plug the CBA, plug Outback, plug all your stuff? That way people know where to find you.
Yeah, if you want to send me a message that is negative, send that to I don't really care at gmail.com.
Aaron at Kifaru.net.
Aaron at Kifaru.net. Send that right away. No, you can follow us. The Inspired Wild podcast. You can follow some of the podcasts on basically iTunes or Spotify, all the podcast platforms. It's hashtag Inspired Wild Podcast. And then we have Instagram for Outback Outdoors. I have Trevon Stoltzfus, common spelling. Yeah, on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. So both Outback Outdoors and that Inspired Wild podcast is also on Instagram. We're not doing a whole lot other than just when we post a new podcast, we put it up there. So yeah, you can get a hold of me there. Best thing to do is just instant message me there. I get a lot of messages, so forgive me if it takes me a while to get back to you. I'll try, unless you're gonna give me a hard time about something. I might take a long time to get back to you.
He might pull over on the side of the interstate.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get back pretty quick, so that I'm responsive. But and then if you have questions about cameras, stuff like that, hit me up, and I'll do my best to at least direct you to some place, video or something that explains it better than I can, because I'm not the smartest tool in the tool shed, or the sharpest tool. See, I can't even say it right. That's how silly I am.
Yeah, don't ask me. I've owned one camera, so all I know is about that one camera.
Well, and I will warn you, if you start me talking about cameras and actually gear, I'm kind of a gear nerd when it comes to that, and I do like to talk about the different things. So, but I also have to set my time schedule, because I got a lot of things going, so I can't talk too much. But yeah, hit me up. CBA, Colorado Bow Hunting .org. I think they have Instagram too. If you're not a member, I want to encourage you to become a member. And here's why. It's $30 for a family. You get 6 magazines a year. Okay. That's in and itself good enough. But bigger than that is what the CBA is doing with being a kind of a watchdog, if you will, about what's coming down the pipe. And we're looking to try and do something like, maybe bring on some attorneys on retainer. That's what these anti-hunting organizations do. They've got lawyers on retainer, and they're throwing stuff at us all the time. They've got us so dadgum confused, and we're always on the defensive. We need to go on the offensive. And if we start, a good example is Colorado bear hunting in the spring in Colorado. They took that away from us over 10 years ago, and we'll probably never get it back. But if we start throwing some stuff like we're going to try and get that back, maybe we tie up their stuff, we tie up their resources trying to fight us on that front, and that keeps them away from trying to go after more of what we have. We got to fight them on the same level. They are intelligent. They are creative. We got to take the fight to them on the same level. We got to partner up well-funded. We got to partner up with other organizations that, yeah, we might not agree on everything. We might not even agree on season structure, but we both agree that hunting is good. Well, we need to band together the best we can in order to be able to combat these organizations. And again, it's not why I hunt, but because I hunt, this is vital that we do this. And that's why I kind of said, okay, the CBA needed some help, and Matt Jackson and I kind of stepped in the role with the magazine and the new website. And so go to coloradobowhunting.org, get a membership. You're going to get a stunning magazine. And then if you hunt Colorado, you're doing your part rather than just buying a license and coming to Colorado. You need to do more.
Yeah. Even if you're a non-resident, you don't have to be a resident of Colorado.
Yep.
I've hunted Colorado the last 3 years, so I'm going to do my part.
Yeah. So those are kind of where I'm at. Outback Outdoors, we were on the Sportsman's Channel. Sportsman's Channel has kind of, in my opinion, it's on a downward trend, not because of anything Sportsman's Channel did, but just basically because of the way people are digesting content. You can find Outback Outdoors on YouTube. We do have YouTube. I don't do much on YouTube, but post episodes. And then, but Amazon Prime, we're on Amazon Prime. We've actually had a few issues here lately. Some of the videos have keep going offline and we can't figure out why, but if you can't find it on Amazon Prime, our seasons, then go to YouTube, Outback Outdoors on YouTube, and you can watch them there. We
Full draw
don't
film tour. You've done some
Yeah,
stuff.
we got my moose film from last year. My moose film will be in full draw film tour. So if there's one coming, you can go to full draw film tour.com and you can see their schedule, and it's growing, especially as the COVID regulations, I guess we'll call them, are loosening up. More people we're able to get more of those theaters booked and stuff like that. So.
Well, all right, Trev. I appreciate it, buddy. Can't thank you enough. Thanks for coming on, and really enjoyed it. And we'll have to do this again. We'll dive maybe more into camera settings and things like that next time. Get a little bit more advanced. So I know I've got things I'd like to bounce off of you. So
yeah,
we'll just bullshit one day and hit the record button.
Yeah, that's the way, in my opinion. I think you get creative ideas, and then you can, especially if you've got a base, a foundation underneath you, and you want to go to the next level. I can kind of guide you through what your options are, and then help. Just don't tell your wife or your significant other that you're looking to invest in some cashola. Some money.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I'm kind of at a point where I'm about ready to upgrade cameras, so I need to pick your brain a little bit. But
awesome.
Anyway, all right. Well, thanks, Trev. I appreciate it.
You got it. God bless, bro. I always enjoy talking to you, and I'm kind of still a little hurt that you bailed on me for best of best. You didn't think that was going to come up, did you?
It wasn't even intentional, Wes.
I know what happened. What happened. You guys were sitting around a freaking camp, probably having a few cervezas, and Wes Campbell looks over at you and goes, "Hey, will you shoot with me next year in the best of the best?" And you're like, "Sure, why not?" You forget about your little buddy Trevon, who, although you carried me last year, maybe that was it. Maybe I hurt your back.
You did.
I was just heavy enough to where I dragged you down. We still placed.
From a pure entertainment standpoint, it was top quality. Yeah. But speaking of, we need to figure out where all that footage is, and we need to get that. We might have to bury some of it.
I know exactly where all that footage is.
We need to see.
I got it. I had two cameramen there, and it was in some places you and I freaking shine. On other places, I was not as stellar a partner as I should have been. You held up your end of the deal.
Well, hopefully we'll shoot together, even if we're not partner. I did hook you up with a partner there. Old Cam's going to come up.
I like to call him the Big Easy. Oh, Big Easy. He's Big Easy. I can jump on his back. He can carry me like there's nothing. I figured. I don't know. I've been shooting pretty good. I've been working that target panic, and I'm shooting a hinge, and been working. Just the only way to get over that is to get over it, and I say that way oversimplified.
First step to curing target panic is admitting you have it.
That's correct. And then, being able to put in the work that you need. Who has a really good podcast on this, of course, is Levi Morgan. He just did a podcast I listened to, and it's funny because I had actually talked to him earlier about this, and when I was struggling with it, and him and Joel Turner, Joel really helped me. But the thing is you can't just go out there and it's gone. You have to put in the work to be able to get to a point to where even with a surprise release, you still have to be able to put in the work. And then the bottom line is it's just repetition. And I'm feeling better. I shot last night, and I shot one down. I shot a 199 on 20 targets, and I shot a 5 in there. So I was pretty pleased with that.
That's pretty good then,
yeah. And then, it's nothing for me to drop a couple of 5s, but I don't have a quiver full of 5s like Luke Caldillo. Okay. That boy has a quiver full of 5s. I'm just going to take a magic marker and write on every one of his arrows a 5, because at some juncture that sucker's going to hit a 5.
Oh man. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be a ball as per usual.
It is going to be fun.
And we're needing trad guys. So
Yes.
If you're a trad guy, um, find you a wheelbow partner, and all you got to do is tolerate them for a day or two.
Right. And you tried, guys, if you need a hookup, I've got a bunch of good shooters out here in Colorado that are scrambling looking for good trad shooters. So hit me up and I'll play the matchmaker.
All skill levels too.
Yeah.
It's really the company is top notch, and it is a great time. So
Yeah.
yeah, make the trip, go sign up. You go
Go
to
to
Kifaru's
go to
page.
go to Kifaru's Instagram, and then you're gonna have to go back. Dana actually makes an announcement about how to get signed up. It's not the easiest to find. Like, I don't even, do they have a page at Kifaru.net?
Whenever I drop this episode, I'll repost it in our story or something like that, so people can find it. So
All right, dude. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
oh, me too, man. It'll be a ball. All right, Trev. I'll let you go. I know you got to get to CBA stuff, so
All right, man. It's great talking to you. All right.
All right, see you, bud.
See you, bud.